since these guys have driven, they run by themselves in practice. Little anxiousness here for some of these guys?
Yeah, a few more butterflies than what they had when they had that 5-race stretch, but they'll settle in here quickly.
Race number 6 at Texas underway. Paul Menard squeezes up in front of Denny Hamlin and takes the lead off turn 2, 33 car.
Paul Menard seemed to be the consensus choice of having the best car to win here tonight by everyone that I talked with down in the garage area.
Well, these Chevrolet cars have been so strong all year, and Paul, this is just his kind of racetrack. I brought him here for his first nationwide start, and now also in the car 33.
Second place. Sorry, Andy. Stenhouse in the 6 by the 18 of Hamlin.
Ricky Stenhouse wanted to make it 4 in a row for Roush Fenway, and he's their only hope here tonight.
Side by side, 8th place here. Joey Logano, most recent winner in the Nationwide Series in the 20, and young Cole Witt in the 88. Right behind them, that 30 car, different driver this week than we've been used to seeing. That's Steve Arpin. Remember, we saw him driving for Dale Jr. a couple of years ago. He did some races for this Turner Motorsports team last year in the Truck Series, and he's got a couple of them lined up with the Turner team, including this one tonight at Texas.
Wow, look at Keselowski up the top. I don't think he wants to be running quite that high.
I don't know in these cars. He was utilizing that in Cup practice earlier today with his Cup car. I'm not sure that these Nationwide cars are ready to get up there and run that high up. I think you just lose too much time up there, especially as the tires are fresh.
For the lead, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
I'll tell you, he's just lightning fast on these 1.5-mile tracks.
Boy, he sure wore the field out, but he waited at Las Vegas towards the end of the race to really get his car right. Looks like he's got it good from the start here tonight.
Roush Fenway Racing so strong in the last few races at this track. Carl Edwards dominated the last few. One of them got away from him at the end. The race here last November, a little strategy that didn't play into his favor, but did play into his teammate Trevor Baynes.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin right there in third. He's always a factor.
Sadler 2, Dillon 3, Kane 38. 4th, 5th, and 6th. Going to be a busy weekend for Kasey Kahne. He's going to run tonight. He's going to run the Sprint Cup race tomorrow night. Then he's going to go off to Rockingham, North Carolina, and run the Camping World Truck Series event there on Sunday.
Well, he's got his hands full right now, though. See that car wiggling all over the place coming off the corner.
Keselowski 22, Allgaier 31. And here comes Austin Dillon trying to get a spot on his teammate Elliott Sadler. That's 4th place.
When we were showing them just half a lap ago, I was noticing how good that 3 car was turning. Really got off the corner really well. Looks like he's set up for a good night right now. I think Austin Dillon's biggest challenge in some of these races, especially the first part of the year, is learning how to adjust his race car as these races progress.
Well, and he told you when you talked to him on the pace laps during our in-race reporter conversation that the adjustments were going to be a big deal tonight as well. The changing track conditions and characteristics as the temperatures cool and so on.
And that really is in the driver's hands. I mean, the crew chief really can't predict what the track's going to do. He can't really tell what it's doing during the race. The driver has to tell him, and the crew chief can't do anything but what the driver wants.
There's some things I'm seeing from Elliott Sadler's 2 car there that we've seen them have some problems with. I see a lot of sparks, a lot more still coming out from under that 2 car. They've had some issues at the bigger tracks, Las Vegas and California, to where they were bottoming out some.
Well, I think the issue is that they do a pretty good job of getting that car down and keeping it down on the racetrack, and that does, if they miss it just a little bit, it can hurt you. I mean, you get down, hard parts of the car start hitting the track, and you lose a lot of grip. But they've done well in recovering. When they have a problem like that, they've recovered well.
Justin Allgaier picking up a spot. 31 car moves up to 12th position. One of those guys talked about earlier that needs to have a good finish tonight. Needs to get it rolling.
Yeah, they've performed well, but they don't have a lot to show from that, and they would like to start getting the results that equal what they're able to do.
And by the way, his team owner's from Texas. This is a big deal to his team owner. Big performance so far for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. The defending series champ has run up and taken the lead early in the going tonight at Texas. There's a new chapter in the Angels-Yankees rivalry. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball at 8 with Derek Jeter and the Bronx Bombers welcoming Albert Pujols, now a member of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Then Monday night at 7 Eastern, Joe Mauer and the Twins take on Alex Rodriguez and the Yankees. SportsCenter will be seen in New York. Both games available on ESPN, ESPN3, and live on the Watch ESPN app. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is out in front early in the going in the O'Reilly 300 at Texas Motor Speedway. But what's different from when we went to the break? The gap between first and second. It's up to 1.7 seconds. There it is. And it's happened when Stenhouse, the leader, did something different on the racetrack than he was doing in the opening laps and than these guys are doing now.
Yeah, you can see the Paul Menard and Denny Hamlin stand right on the bottom. Now Stenhouse was lapping a car there, but he's been up at least a groove and a half, Andy, and he's really picked up the speed.
Yeah, I saw that, especially in 3 and 4. He's running quite a bit higher, carrying that momentum, and I've seen maybe one more car, the 3 car of Austin Dillon, try that. I don't know that Austin has picked up quite as much time.
So while Stenhouse Jr. expands his lead, and we see Menard now moving up in that 33 car, all may not be completely good in the pit of the leader. Jamie, what's up?
Well, Alan, for the last 5 minutes, somebody's radio has been left open, and what that means is the team cannot communicate with their driver, and he can't communicate at all with them. This is what we were hearing on the radio.
I know you're not going to believe it, but I think our radios are breaking up again.
Yes, working on it. Can you hear me?
And that right there is what we've heard for the last 5 minutes. But somebody was able to get through to Ricky just now and told him to switch the radio channel, and we heard him for the first time. So that's good news for your leader.
Yeah, that can't be fun to have that kind of noise bouncing around inside your ears at 180 miles an hour.
10-4, can you hear me now?
10-4, really quiet. I got you, though.
All right, 3130, a 47 Outback. Last rides look good. I understand you're loose on entry.
That's one of the most aggravating things is those radio problems. It's even, you know, the driver is obvious. It's distracting to him, but you're trying to find where the problem is in the pits. It can be really frustrating and sometimes impossible to find.
I don't know if he took that on his own and didn't know exactly other than looking in his mirror and seeing that distance, those cars going further back from him. He's doing a nice job, but that is aggravating as a driver. And you just try to put it out of your mind the best that you can and do your job, and he's doing his job really well right now.
Going to drop back through the top 10 to just outside of it and find the 12 car of Sam Hornish Jr. There he is, racing with Cole Witt there for a spot. Witt sliding back a little bit. A couple laps ago, watch that red and white 12 car. Wiggle, wobble,
Yeah.
wiggle.
Wow.
You know, I think
a
we
nice
see
thing.
this a lot with Sam Hornish's car. I don't know exactly if he tries to make it, you know, if they put in his mind that he has to have it turning so good or that's what he's looking for. But we see him on a regular basis be extremely loose with his race car. What are they saying about that car, Vince?
Hey, believe it or not, he's saying it's a little free from center off. Right?
A little.
But he said he's having trouble getting it to turn down, and they think that might be creating some of the issues from the center off. There you see crew chief Chad Walter. They had a lot of high expectations coming into this race this weekend, and it's been a little bit of a struggle so far through practice in the early going today.
I think that's one of the things that they're fighting. I think their expectations are really high, and the car just hasn't performed to the level that they expect it to. And I think Sam's pushing a little bit hard. And we saw this a few weeks ago at California. He struggled with a loose car.
So Hornish there racing with Brian Scott for the 11th and 12th positions. Scott trying to regain some ground lost in that opening scramble, the opening few laps after the initial start. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has opened up a 1.8-second lead on second place Paul Menard. Caution free, but very early in the going tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has a beautiful evening so far, having led all but 3 of the 30 laps that have been completed. Roush Fenway Racing, having won the last 3 straight here, led 71% of the laps in those last 3 races. And Stenhouse keeping it going right now. As conditions continue to change, track conditions, the sun setting, even though we had an overcast earlier and so on, some drivers are finding it a little easier to adapt to than others, and some drivers are still trying to figure out what it is that their car needs at this racetrack to get the most out of it. One of those would be Danica Patrick in the 7, who started in the 17th position and runs in the 17th position.
Another good corner right there. Just get off his air to keep that nose loaded.
So stupid because we're just falling back.
We're just in the air. If you're tight, just remember your bead blowers like Tony talked about.
Yeah, that's just things that you have to learn as a driver. You get frustrated at times when you're trying to make passes around here, and just getting a little bit of air to the front of your car will make it drive like a totally different car. And that's just what they're trying to tell her, to be patient and make sure you use all the air that's available to you.
And if you were to pass on some words of encouragement to Danica, it would be that she's 17th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 16th, and Cole Witt has fallen back from where he qualified, which was up in 7th spot. He's fallen back to 13th spot. So the company cars, she's right in there with them.
And that's basically what you have to judge yourself by, is what's coming out of your same stable. And that's really the only thing that she can judge herself by. And right now, it's not that bad. What it shows is, I think, not having a Cup affiliation with that race team shows that they're going to struggle some as they try to make all of these things happen on their own.
Well, they actually have some sort of an affiliation with Henry Motorsports. They get engines from there. And I think the door is open for technical support there too, but not being in-house like we saw the Childress teams. We see Austin Dillon right there. They brought that in-house into Childress' shop from Harvick. Harvick did a great job with that team, but we can see the improvement when they brought it in-house. And I think that that just shows you when you integrate these nationwide teams with the Cup teams, it does make a difference. I think that's one of the things that the Junior Motorsports team is struggling with.
Yeah, when I look at the top 10 right now, 8 of them are out of Cup affiliated shops. The only 2 that aren't, Casey Kane, who is a Cup driver, and Justin Allgaier there, who comes from Steve Turner's, and they do a tremendous job. They do get some information there, but they do a tremendous job.
Kane giving up 4th spot there to Austin Dillon, who slides by him in the 3. After the 2 raced pretty hard for that for a few laps.
Well, they've been racing hard the whole race. They've been together just about from the start. Austin pulled away just a little bit there for a few laps, and then Casey was able to catch him back, and now they're having a good little battle going.
Yeah, so Austin tried to move up. I don't think that line worked as good for him. His car seems to really want to go around the bottom of the racetrack. You see now he caught Casey Kane back and passed and pulling away a little bit.
Andy, we're about to get to the 40-lap mark, caution-free so far. This race last year had only 3 cautions, fewest ever at Texas, and if the pattern continues, we're going to see some green flag pit stops before too long.
Yeah, we will, and we see these lap times have dropped off right at exactly 2 seconds from the fastest lap of the race. So, you know, these new tires are going to make a big difference, and some of these teams really need some adjustments, because when you have tires dropping off that much, it really does accentuate one of the, you know, whichever end of your car is sliding.
Second place into lap traffic. Neon car, Paul Menard, the red and white 18, Denny Hamlin, as they work their way around Eric Darnell and continue racing.
Yeah, see, Denny Hamlin has now tried to move up. Paul Menard had moved up a little earlier. Now Hamlin has done that. Looks like he's making it work a little bit better. The 33 struggling a little bit, Dave.
He is, DJ. He says, if I hit the corner just right, I'm a little bit free. If I don't, I lose the nose. So what's a driver to do? Hit it just sort of right? The main thing he was encouraged to do was don't abuse that right rear tire. Just take care of that until we get to the first pit stop.
Yeah, perfection at 175 miles per hour is all they're asking.
In the Rolling Science Project, it is
well,
a race car.
When you have a car like that, you're really pretty well balanced, and when the driver can just change a little bit about the way he's driving the car and make it loose or tight, really that's about all you can do as far as the balance goes. You can't go, you know, changing wedge and air pressure to help that as far as balancing one end or the other. So just, you know, they're just a little bit off on this longer run. It looks like he's slipping back just a little bit more as they go, but they're due for another pit stop.
Pit stop's coming very soon, so we'll take a break and come back. Get ready for those. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has added another second to his lead while Hamlin and Menard raced for second spot. And the defending Nationwide Series champ Stenhouse is up by 3.1 seconds.
Points are awarded and the standings aren't affected.
Green flag pit stops beginning tonight in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. O'Reilly 300 at Texas Motor Speedway. Kurt Busch on pit road. Yes, those are some scrapes on the right side of that 54 car. And as Kurt heads back onto the track, let's show you what happened a lap before he pitted.
Yeah, Drew's been widening out, but not quite that much. Not enough room for that.
Now, the caution has just come out for debris on the racetrack. Dave, what are they saying about that 54?
Right front was going down. It was absolutely necessary for him to pit, Alan. It wasn't way out of sequence with what they were wanting to do, but cords are showing on that right front tire that came off of Kurt's car. He had to hit pit road. Jamie?
22 Brad Keselowski. That is why the caution came out. He was slowing up, said the car was getting extremely hot. The team thought he'd be okay, thought he just broke a header. And Brad said, nope, we're getting worse. And the car sounds bad. And you see him make that left-hand turn back to the garage.
Okay, you can hear the car come by the front straightaway, and it just blew up. There's your debris.
Brake duct out of somebody's car.
Probably Kurt Busch. He was
Yeah.
the last one to make contact, and then right after that's when Keselowski's going to blow up. See, right here, it just laid down and completely running right here.
That's not how an engine's supposed to sound.
And he'd reported a little earlier that they may have an issue, but they were hoping that it was something less severe than what it turned out to be.
Well, the reason the crews thought that is because he was still making time. He was passing cars and running good lap times, but Brad knew he had a problem.
So from 6th position, Brad Keselowski goes to the garage area and out of the race, joining Scott Riggs, Chase Miller, Josh Wise, Scott Speed, Kevin LePage, and Jeff Green, who all pulled in after running just less than a dozen laps for any of them. For those who had not pitted under green yet, they get to make the stop under caution. A couple of guys are going to get burned by that. We'll recap it in a minute. Mike?
Kasey Kahne and Mike Shiplett having a very long conversation as to what to do to the race car. Kahne saying it's pretty neutral. They'd been contemplating making a wedge adjustment. Kahne saying he didn't want to do that, thought it would get him a little bit too tight. They don't. They just go with 4 tires and no chassis adjustments. Vince.
Justin Allgaier, bottom left of your screen, 2 free in, 2 tight in the middle. They're going down on the track bar 2 rounds, taking some wedge out in 4 tires. Jamie?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a 3-second lead, so the car was loose, then perfect. Track bar down, 4 sticker tires and fuel. Dave?
Third place, Paul Menard, 4 scuffed tires, 1 lap scuffs. He's off of pit road first. Sunoco fuel in that car. Also a track bar adjustment for the car that he said was more tight than loose.
And check out the number 6. -5. Have to follow up on that and see what happened to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And it's going to shuffle him from the lead back to 6th position.
Junior's team picked him up in 3 spots.
So first round of pit stops for the leaders all wrapped up. Rear tire changer for Austin Dillon. Jeremy West carrying us into action.
Introducing a powerful weapon in your...
For the opening run of the race, but he finds himself back in 6th position off the pit stops. What happened? Well, watch the right front.
You can see they're just struggling with that right front, getting the lug nuts off, and it's definitely a problem. No more issues from here, but this was just enough to cost Ricky about 5 spots. Yeah, 16.6. That's going to get you beat pretty well on pit road. Most people making those 13, sometimes 12-second stops.
So Stenhouse finds himself in 6th position for the restart. Driver change during the caution as well, Mike.
Yeah, Eric McClure, Alan, suffering from flu-like symptoms. You know how bad that is with a normal job. Imagine being behind the wheel at close to 200 miles per hour in very hot temperatures. Well, he got out of the race car, and he'll be replaced by Jeff Green for the remainder of the race. I spoke with Eric briefly. Just said he's sick to his stomach right now, Alan.
All right, thanks, Mike. Jeff Green actually ran a couple practice laps in that 14 car earlier this morning in the practice session they had here. So this is not completely unfamiliar territory for Jeff and the race team. Jason Bowles got the free pass, and you see the restart order here. 6 cars, those who pitted under green and got caught by the caution flag, took wave arounds to get back onto the lead lap. 6 cars took the wave around, 2 to get back onto the lead lap. Sam Hornish Jr. and Kurt Busch are on the lead lap. Into the corner.
You can see Dale Earnhardt Jr. there in that 5 car wanting to make a move and try to make something happen on this restart, but really got himself out of position.
Steve Harpin wasn't afraid to go out there in that 30 car.
For the lead, Kasey Kahne outside, Paul Menard inside. Give that lap to Kahne in the 38.
I believe for these first 5 or 6 laps that these drivers run, that inside lane is going to be the quicker way around on the fresh tires, even though Kasey Kahne's able to hang there pretty decent. Got a great battle. Look at that car bottomed out getting down in.
I can't imagine what that feels like as a driver when that front splitter or the chassis components, whatever, is bouncing off the racetrack at that speed.
No, you really can't imagine. I'm not being a smart aleck there, but it is a feeling that very unsettling to the driver. You feel all of that hitting. You're just hoping that these tire pressures build up and that goes away sooner than later.
And that's what they're counting on. You see right there, it was not quite as bad that lap as the lap before. Getting into ones where it was really bad. He tried to, it's still sparking pretty good though. Tried to run it in real hard on the outside, and you can see a ton of sparks coming out of the car.
We talked about Dale Jr. in that 5, trying to make some ground after the restart, working on Joey Logano in the 20.
Well, they had a good pit stop, so it's nice to see that their car, looks like they made some adjustment to that too to help his progress towards the front.
He's trying to reward that pit crew with that good pit stop now by passing a few on the track.
And really, what we've seen in the last few years in NASCAR racing, the trend become, Tony Stewart kind of emphasized it for us in that race at the beginning of the chase, Chicagoland last year, but restarts. Being daring, making spots up quickly on a restart because things are going to settle in and people's tire pressures are going to come up and the air is going to begin to become a factor, and being opportunistic on the restarts is critical.
Well, you can get 2 or 3 spots in those first few laps if your car is good and you can be aggressive on those starts. But right now you can see Junior, it's going to take him a few laps just to make this next spot up, and then he's got to do the same thing again. So it's very difficult once this thing gets strung out a little bit to make up that track position.
Michael Annett, 43. Steve Harpin, 30. David Reagan, 27. 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Right behind there, you can see the 88 of Cole Witt and the 09. That's not Kenny Wallace this week. That is Ryan Truex driving that car. Brought some sponsorship over to him. Kenny Wallace will be back in the 09 car at Talladega.
And Danica Patrick just next in line, lead lap, right behind her teammate, Cole Witt. Vince, little adjusting going on with Ryan Truex and this team working together for the first time.
They are indeed, and Ryan's got a little bit of another advantage. Remember, his brother, Martin Truex Jr., will be on pole for the Cup race tomorrow night, and they bounced some conversation off one another about how these tires might wear tonight.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother earlier today in the motorhome. He was saying if he had a little bit of push at all, he was 2/10 slower. If he was a little free like we've been, the second practice, he was really fast. He just had to, hustle it. So I'm thinking we're going to have to be on the free side to go fast and not kill the right front tire.
Having that communication with crew chief Scott Zipadelli, no matter who's in this car, this team always puts forth the big effort, even though they've got the small budget.
That car's a whole lot easier to manage when you have a little push in it. It's a little bit tight. But like you said, you heard right there, 2 or 3 tenths slower when you have any push at all. And that's what makes this so tricky. You have to have the car free, and we've taken a lot of these in-car shots. We saw Ricky Stenhouse early in the race leading and basically turn it right as much as he's turning left.
Denny Hamlin in the 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing, trying to get second spot away from Casey Kane. Hamlin has come tantalizingly close at this racetrack before in the Nationwide Series. A couple of runner-up finishes. And Brian Scott.
Looks like another engine problem. Saw Brad Keselowski's engine expire, and now looks like this one has.
11 car was running in 8th position at the time he
that's not
came
good
off
right
the
there.
pace.
Yeah, it's always been a tough racetrack on the engines because you are in the gas so much and turning those RPMs for a long period of time.
Yeah, the RPMs don't come down a whole lot in the middle of the corner. I mean, you're still carrying over, 8,000 RPMs like a minimum, so very hard on them.
Yep. Young man who desperately needed to have a good run tonight. He's just had lousy luck so far this season. But it's not going to be tonight for Brian Scott, who is headed behind the wall, being pushed there by his crew. Paul Menard out in front, started on pole, lost the lead early to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now Menard is out ahead of Casey Kane and Denny Hamlin.
NASCAR returns.
Series, make sure to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Paul Menard out in front. There's the gap. First to second. Denny Hamlin running second. New third place runner Elliott Sadler has just gotten around Casey Kane.
Yeah, looks like the adjustment they made on this 2 car has been beneficial for Elliott Sadler after this restart.
Story of the race, basically, Menard started on the pole. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. went by him early, opened up a 3-second lead in the opening segment of the race. Just as green flag pit stops approached, caution came out when Brad Keselowski lost an engine, and there was some debris on the racetrack. Also, Kurt Busch scraped the wall and dropped a little brake ducting. And after the pit stops, in which Stenhouse lost 5 positions, Menard has led since. Roush Fenway Racing trying to win a 4th consecutive Nationwide Series event at this racetrack. Their hopes rest on Stenhouse solely tonight because the guy who's standing on pit lane with Jamie isn't behind the wheel of a car on the track.
That's right. He was the winner of this race back in November, and for the first time this year, he's sidelined. How difficult is it for you, Trevor, to stand here and watch Ricky tonight?
This is pretty tough, I'm not going to lie. I can hear you better, one, when I'm in the car doing the in-race reporter. I'd rather be doing that. So, I don't know. This is a tough deal. I'd rather be on the racetrack, and we were 4th in points. So it's kind of heartbreaking to sit here and watch these guys make laps. But I just keep pretending it's a truck race or something where I shouldn't be out there anyways. It makes it a little bit easier. But hopefully we get something soon where we can get back on the track and make some laps and try to win some more races.
Do you have any plans at this point to get back in the car at any particular tracks?
What's that?
Do you have any plans right now, any races coming up that you know of?
We're working on some things. Hopefully about 6 to 8 more races, and obviously the more races the better for us. So they have the yourracecar.com stuff that people can go online and get to. That's about our best hope for a lot of races right now. But other than that, we're working on some different things because track time's where it's at. That's where we need to be, is doing this. And I want to be out here battling with these guys. Ricky's doing a great job, and hopefully Roush can still pull it off tonight.
All about sponsorship dollars, but the good news, he will be in the Cup race tomorrow starting 19th. Alan?
Something about this racetrack and Karma, it's been a great place for Trevor on the Sprint Cup side. Been a great place for him in the race car. Nationwide, he won here last November, but it was after this race a year ago that health problems cropped up that forced him to miss out on competing for a championship, and this season it's sponsorship woes that force him to miss out on competing for a championship.
I think it's especially bad for Trevor because he did win the last time we were here. I don't know how you stand there on pit road and watch this race knowing if you were out there you'd have a really great shot at it, but it's tough. He wants to get back out.
Yeah, as I look and hear that, you know, it shows what separates our sport from so many other sports, to where your abilities in that sport take you. Here, it's so much about opportunity and sponsorship dollars to put these young drivers in the right position, give them a chance to showcase their talents, and hopefully they'll find something, because he's a great young man and a fantastic driver.
Trevor will race here tomorrow night in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series aboard the Wood Brothers 21. In qualifying earlier today, he got himself the 19th starting spot for tomorrow night's race. Michael Annett, 43, Joey Logano, 20. This is for 10th and 11th places, as you see.
Yeah, I talked in qualifying a little bit about how impressed we all are, I think, with this race team of Richard Petty Motorsports, and the job that Michael Annett's doing also. You know, they just threw this together literally in January, and they performed very well, and Michael Annett's doing a great job behind the wheel of these cars.
Fourth place here, Kasey Kahne, Austin Dillon.
Kind of like what I see with Austin Dillon in these. He's not abusing these tires. We've seen them fall off. Andy, you were talking about falling off 2 seconds in that run earlier. He looks like at the start of these runs, he's taking care of these. He looks more like the experienced driver, and he's taking care of them, and then his car doesn't fall off quite as bad.
Yeah, he is doing a good job of that. You see, Kasey Kahne is struggling with the handling of his car. He's had to move up, try to find something to make speed, and it takes its toll on his tires after he runs a while, and, you know, he's just doing what he can do with his car. But this track has become more like Atlanta. It's losing more and more grip, and these tires do go away.
When we talked with Austin Dillon earlier, we asked him about his granddad and team owner, Richard Childress, and which voice he hears more come on the radio, whether it's team owner or granddad. He was on the radio a little bit ago.
The rear grip a little better. Right now, it's real good. I just entering on the loose.
Oh, you may be faster at the top of 3 and 4. You're killing them in 1 and 2 down here on the bottom.
Yeah, that's the kind of feedback that Richard he's on top of these haulers. He's watching this thing. And that's what he's telling his young driver there. He can see, he's got so much experience, he can tell him things that'll help him.
One thing I've been noticing is all 3 of those Richard Childress cars are in the top 5, and a lot of the last 10 laps, they've been the top 3 fastest cars on the racetrack.
Austin Dillon running in 5th, Elliott Sadler in 3rd, Paul Menard leading. We saw Brian Scott go to the garage just a bit ago, Mike.
And a frustrating 2012 for Brian Scott continues, Alan. What happened?
Unfortunately, we blew a motor. You're right, it has been a frustrating 2012. Not the way we wanted to get started. Not sure what happened, but everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing, they build great stuff, and their motor program's excellent. So I'm sure it was probably a part of something like that, and we'll just have to take it back, figure it out, and move on. That's all we can really do.
Brian Scott obviously a little bit disappointed as he got out of the car. He tossed his helmet and basically shoved the steering wheel. He wasn't happy, and you can understand the frustration. He had a pretty good run going, Alan.
3rd race he's failed to finish in the last 4, Mike, and that's not good for someone who hoped to contend for the championship this year. Tell you what, Kasey Kahne and Elliott Sadler are having a pretty good tussle.
Well, one thing, Kasey, like I said, he was moving around this track trying to find somewhere for that car to go, and he's found it.
Yeah, the one thing about Kasey is he started on the outside of the front row on this restart, and he's run every lap up around the top of the racetrack, and that really can help save your tires. You're not turning the wheel as much, not abusing it as much, and so now it looks like that this is paying off for him up there around the top. He lost a lot of time when these fresher tires and these cars were running around the bottom. He lost a spot or 2.
So Kahne up to 3rd place after sliding back a little bit. There is your race leader, Paul Menard, up 2.4 seconds on Denny Hamlin. We are past the 1/3 mark of tonight's 300-miler here at Texas Motor Speedway. Fast and furious on a Friday night at Texas Motor Speedway in the O'Reilly 300 for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Paul Menard blistering around this racetrack, an event that has only been slowed one time for caution, that for debris, back at lap 46. Speaking of debris, Kasey Kahne running third in the 38 car. There's Kasey, blue and white car, running down the backstretch a couple of laps ago, and watch by the left front corner of the 38.
It's like a piece of a brake duct motor, fan motor. It's plastic, but it hit it pretty hard.
And trouble off of turn 4. Brad Keselowski had just come back out of the garage during
take a set of tires here. Didn't hit anything.
During the commercial break, and has just spun off turn number 4. Second yellow of the night. Jeremy Clements just turned down into the garage area in front of Keselowski as he came back onto pit road.
Like he just lost it. Be interested to know what they did to fix that engine. You could hear it. It went real south when he brought the first caution out. Now they've got it. Looks like the motor's running good, but the handling's kind of gone away.
Got him too much motor.
Yeah, maybe. Sounded like it was something in the valve train. They may have been able to replace a rocker arm or something simple.
We will get a follow-up report on that, but got our pit reporters concentrating on covering these pit stops that are upcoming for the moment for the leaders.
We're just about due for another pit stop.
All right, here they come. Be lap 91, Michael.
Well, last time down pit road, you heard that Mike Shiplett and Kasey Kahne contemplated a wedge adjustment. They elected not to do it. They're going to do it this time. They're going to go down a half a round. They're going to try to tighten him up just a little bit. Also a 4-tire change on the 38, Jamie.
Denny Hamlin wants a big swing, says he's as loose as when they started. He made the call and said he wants wedge and a spring rubber in the left rear, 4 tires, and they'll fill it up with Sunoco. Nate?
Sunoco for both of the cars on the right. 4th place, Elliott Sadler. They say they fixed 70% of the landing problem. Still a little tight. Further adjustment. As for Paul Menard, wedge adjustment, just 1 round down in the left rear. He says the car is just a little free. Need you to tighten me up a little bit, and that's a little bit of a win off of pit road, I believe.
Yes, sir. Everybody pretty well holds serve, though Elliott Sadler's team with a nice pickup there. So second caution is out tonight, just shy of halfway. Paul Menard's in the garage that brought him back out to just be able to spin out, Jamie.
Well, they checked everything when they took him back in the garage, checked their plugs, wires, headers, rockers, and it ended up being the distributor. So they replaced that, and they brought him back out just to get some laps for tomorrow's race to help him out.
All right, thanks. And Joey Logano made a second pit stop under this caution flag that has put him back last car on the lead lap in 19th spot. Follow up on that in a minute. First, we go racing. For the lead, 3 wide, Denny Hamlin to the bottom. Stenhouse Jr. trying to follow him through in the 6, and here comes Justin Allgaier in the 31. And trouble behind them. That's Blake Cook. Caution is out.
There you go. You good?
No, we're in the fence car. Somebody dumped me.
Out of 4.
Blake Cook was in 25th position, 2 laps down. And what was it we were discussing earlier about the intensity after a restart and be aggressive and grab spots now? We saw it up front, and we may have seen it back in the pack here too.
And we get to do it again now. Well, it looks like Kurt Busch got in the left rear of Blake Cook.
restarting in row 3.
Stenhouse caught sleeping on that start.
Certainly goes back to last year when we saw Stenhouse having some problems on these restarts. I don't know if he just spun the tires there, didn't have them cleaned off good enough, but it's really going to cost him.
Elliott Sadler looking for the lead on the outside in the deuce.
Power move right there.
Yeah, and that's a point towards the championship. He wanted to get that.
Denny Hamlin, 18, not going to give up so easily. And what about the recovery of Sam Hornish in the 12, right behind him, 4th place?
He's right there with the run. Got him 3 wide for the lead, though.
Hamlin didn't like that spot he was in the middle.
Well, he's still there, just for another spot, for 3rd spot. Looks like he's going back to 5th.
How about Sam Hornish's job he's doing? Man, that car was out of control back earlier in this race. Up in the top 5 now.
He was 19th for the restart a couple of yellows ago and has worked his way up now into the top 4. Still Menard and Sadler double wide for the lead, and Stenhouse using all that side-by-side racing in front of him to make up the ground lost with a bad restart.
Yeah, but look at the run Sam Hornish got right there. You saw Stenhouse get it just a little bit loose. Sam's car's on a rail.
Stenhouse just wants a lane that he can go in where there's nobody at. He knows up there, tried to go 3 wide a while ago on the outside. That wasn't the way to go, so now he's just looking for somewhere else to go.
I didn't hear him crack the throttle in 1 and 2.
So last restart, it was Denny Hamlin who jumped Menard and shuffled him back in traffic. This time Menard's the one who winds up in the lead, and Hamlin is back in 5th place.
Does that tell us for later in the race that you don't want to be restarting this on the
I guess you want to be 5th, right?
Sounds like Justin Allgaier sliding his car through the corner. 31.
Talking about Sam Hornish Jr. and the nice recovery of that 12 car up to 4th place, Vince.
One of the things, Alan, they've been battling throughout the course of the night is the car has just been too free on entry. But crew chief Chad Walter's been working on it, and they've gotten it to where Sam is really comfortable. And I've heard a confidence in his voice that I haven't heard very often as he talked with Chad on the radio. They really like their race car right now, and you're seeing the result of it.
Great drive back up through. While we watch this, I'll just throw out there that Chad Walter and all these other crew chiefs are going to have that strategy call to make later on in this race, Andy. We've seen it. We saw it the last race here, where that decision to keep the track position or get the fresher tires, they're going to have to be crunching those numbers in their head and make that call at some point.
Well, if we keep having cautions like we've had, where it comes right at the time that they would make pit stops anyway, you're not going to see many strategy plays because they're going to get 4 tires, they're going to get fuel. The tires are falling off so much in lap time that they have to get 4 to be competitive. I don't think that we're going to see anybody be able to take 2 tires and stay out there and hold anybody off. That's actually easier for a crew chief to make that call than it is some of those when you have a tire that really doesn't give up much.
Stenhouse stalking Menard for the lead. Dave?
Alan, driver Paul Menard is a veteran. Crew chief Ernie Cope is a veteran. But this is the first time that they've ever worked together, and they're running very well in the Nationwide Series. Ernie Cope actually has 5 different drivers this year on this 33 car. He says, yeah, they all want something a little different, but they're all good. I love the fact that I've got all these different drivers to work with, and right now, Paul Menard is proving his worth on this team.
I can see the fun side of it. Also, I can see the difficulty of different drivers just like different feel in a race car, even subtly.
Well, you know, the consistency you lose when you have switch drivers, but what you gain from that is that you get other, each driver has their own style, what they like. They may even bring something to the table, that you may discover something with one, say Paul Menard tonight, that makes their program, moves their program forward, that they maybe wouldn't find with somebody else. And you know, so what you lose in consistency, you gain with this different perspective of these great drivers. All of them are great drivers.
Really great driving by Menard to hold off Stenhouse there, because it looked like for a few laps Stenhouse just had a faster car, and Menard found a way to hang on to the top spot and make Stenhouse fall in line. A lot of racing still to go. 86 laps left tonight in Texas.
He led 45 laps tonight.
Showed a lot of strength early. He's got a good race car and has still stayed up in that top 5 all night long.
Running second right now, Kurt Busch in the 54 car for little brother Kyle, but some trouble.
I'll tell you, Kurt's been digging real hard. He's come from the back a couple of times, gotten to the fence there, but still is in the top 15 as we speak.
Trouble for a couple of drivers tonight. Their engines. Tough night for Brad Keselowski.
Brad Keselowski had a distributor go bad on him, had that replaced, came back out, and struggling a little bit this evening.
Same thing for the 11 car, blown engine for Brian
Just
Scott.
bad luck for Brian Scott. He's had a tough season, can't get a break. Once he does, he's going to finish in the top 5 pretty consistently, but not tonight.
So you know how I said Friday night lights? You actually have to have lights to have Friday night lights.
That is Friday the 13th light. That's what that's all about. Is
Very
Friday the 13th.
odd things happening at Texas Motor Speedway. We mentioned the engine issues for both Brad Keselowski and Brian Scott. Both of them still have teammates out there on the track in Denny Hamlin and Sam Hornish Jr. battling for position. They're running well. Should they be concerned?
I don't think they have anything to be concerned with. I mean, obviously we come to Texas and we turn these motors really, really hard, especially with that tapered spacer. But no, I think it was just a set of circumstances, and these guys seem to be pulling and running real strong.
Battling for 5th and 6th on the track, and of course out front, somebody you thought would be running very well. That's Paul Menard.
Paul Menard has been dominant tonight. He's led 63 laps thus far, and he looks like the cat.
Alan, I just spoke with the team. They're not all that concerned about the car battery. To be specific, they're worried about the battery in the radio system. That's the beeping you're hearing. So it is not otherwise a very serious problem, but something that certainly can be pretty annoying and certainly could affect how competitive they'll be down the stretch.
Yeah, that beeping sound you hear, that's the radio. They put that in there so you can tell when it's starting to get low. It'll go a little bit longer after you start hearing it beep, but not much longer. I'm sure they have a backup radio in the car.
Danica running 17th. Her teammates, Cole Witt 14th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 11th. Paul Menard hanging on to a lead of about 0.8 of a second over Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We've still got a little bit better than 100 miles to go, though, tonight in the O'Reilly 300 at Texas Motor Speedway. So a lot of racing to come on Friday the 13th in Fort Worth. Speedway in Fort Worth. There's the race for the lead. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 6. The blue car had closed up on Paul Menard in the 33, but now has fallen back off the back bumper, and that's the way they run as we close in on another round of green flag pit stops. Up to speed with Nationwide Insurance. We start with the race leader and David Burns.
This morning I talked with crew chief Freddie Cope about what would be the key tonight. He said don't get the car loose. In fact, when we're practicing, if I even sense that it's loose, I'm going to tighten that thing way up, and his qualifying practice run was very loose. So they've been pretty close tonight, just a tick free off the corner right now for Menard. Jamie?
And on the last round of stops, the call was to tighten up the 6 car, and apparently they've gone too far.
I can't drive it any harder to get by him. Just way too tight.
Yeah, his last 2 laps before that, whatever you were doing, they were really good laps. They were 31.60 about.
And because he's so tight, it's forcing him to run that outside high line, not where he wants to run. Dave?
Jamie, for Elliott Sadler, it's been the same issue all evening long. When the car lands right about here, it doesn't want to turn, and that's caused him some trouble. However, by finding a better line, he's been able to cut about a second off the lead in the last 9 laps. Mike?
Casey Kane pretty content with his race car, Dave, saying it's been neutral most of the evening. They've made slight adjustments on it, including a wedge adjustment last time down pit road. We saw them hit some debris on the racetrack not too long ago. They took a good look at it. Didn't look like there was any damage whatsoever, Jamie.
And Austin Dillon making his way forward. When we spoke to him, he was back in 8th, so it's taking the car a little bit longer to come to him, but once it does, he's moving in the right direction. He's saying he's just a little loose in and tight through the middle. And behind him is Denny Hamlin. His 3rd race this year. They've been adjusting on this car, and apparently they too have gone a little bit too far. He was good on the start, and he quickly fell back and lost 4 positions. Vince?
Sam Hornish had climbed his way up to 4th. He has since dropped back 3 spots to 7th as the car has just started to get too free. And he says it's a little too snug in the center. Just a moment ago, he reported a vibration in the car. He said the good news is it feels like it's tightening it up a little bit. As for the 31 behind him, that's Justin Allgaier. He says it's free in, tight in the center, and then way too free off. They're going to snug that up when they come to the pits here in less than 10 laps. And then it's been a good run for the 43 of Michael Annett. Annett working his way up through the field. His best finish this season, 10th at Phoenix, but they have a relationship with Roush, and they say that's been making a big difference in the products of their race cars. Mike?
A strong run right now for the 27 of David Reagan. Said early on in the day that it was tight in traffic, but otherwise not too bad. The car has settled in. They've made some small adjustments, but otherwise Reagan pretty happy with the race car right now. Just behind him, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Interesting to listen to his radio throughout the course of the day. It seems as though he's taking a leadership role behind the wheel. Every time crew chief Tony Eury calls for a change, it seems like Junior has an alternate change, and that's the direction they've been going in all night with what Junior wants, Alan.
Mike, thanks. Leaders all last pitted at lap 91. There was a quick caution after that, so we'll see them all on pit road again very, very soon. On the lead lap beyond Earnhardt Jr., as we see Elliott Sadler move up on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for 2nd. You've got Kurt Busch running 12th, Steve Arpin 13th, Ryan Truex 14th, Cole Witt, Joey Logano, Danica Patrick, Mike Bliss, Joe Nemechek, and Jason Bowles, the rest of the lead lap cars. When you look back, take Daytona out of the equation a little bit because it's so much of a wild card with the restricted engine racing that goes on in the drafting and so on. The 4 races in the Nationwide Series that have been run this season beyond Daytona, these 2 drivers, Elliott Sadler and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., have nearly identical numbers in everything. Yes, Sadler's got 2 wins, Stenhouse has got 1, but number of points, number of laps led, top 5s, top 10s, you name it, they've got just about identical numbers. What that says to me is, even though it's early in the season to talk this way, this could be a whale of a championship between these 2 guys.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Ricky Stenhouse proved last year that, you know, he was really good under pressure. Elliott Sadler's ready to prove that once again, that not only is he a championship contender, but he can win races and making all of that happen.
Well, we saw Elliott having to put pressure from behind. I think this year you're going to see a different Elliott Sadler, and he may be the one that has the lead going down late in the season, and that's the kind of pressure it's hard to take.
First of the leaders on pit road for a green flag stop, Vince.
And that's the 31 of Justin Allgaier running in the top 10. Jimmy Elledge is crew chief, 4 tires, air pressure, and Sunoco fuel. He said, make sure we pack it full of fuel. Let's try to snug that thing up as well with the air pressure adjustment now.
All right, Vince, thanks. 55 laps to go.
It's going to stretch it, but Jimmy Elledge is a pretty good strategist. He knows what their car will do.
Last time Justin Allgaier won a race,
it was on fuel mileage.
Thank you. Chicagoland last summer. More cars beginning to peel off the racetrack onto the pit lane. Here comes Elliott Sadler from 2nd place. .45-mile-an-hour pit lane speed. Sadler working his way to the attention of Luke Lambert and the Richard Childress Racing crew, Dave.
As we reported earlier, Alan, tight on landing is the call. They really want to make sure, you talk about fuel mileage, they get it full this time. It'll be an air pressure adjustment to help Elliott. That'll be the only thing. They'll get it full of Sunoco fuel before they send him on his way. Also, Kurt Busch on pit road. Kurt, as you mentioned, running in the 12th position. You see the leader, Paul Menard, on the right coming down pit road. Kurt coming down. His car is tight. It goes too tight in the middle of the run. Mike?
Kasey Kahne has been happy with his car all evening long. A 4-tire change being called on the 38. No changes to the chassis, trying to keep this car up toward the front where they've been all evening.
Austin Dillon loose in, tight in the middle, air pressure adjustment. The 6 is also in of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as they work on the left side. They got to pack these cars full of fuel, Dave. 53 laps to go.
Air pressure adjustment for Paul Menard. He's already gone down pit road. We'll see if he retains the lead on the cycle of pit stops. That was a pretty smooth pit stop.
Denny Hamlin has not pitted yet. Here's Hornish in, Vince.
It's a little too free for Sam Hornish. They're going to make a wedge adjustment and also 4 tires. Otherwise, he's been pretty happy with the race car, especially in those last 2 stints. They're hoping that this is really going to make it perfect, Jamie.
And that's Steve Arpin in the 30, making his first of 2 appearances back in the Nationwide Series. They're working on the right side, a little cockeyed getting into his box. The car has been a little loose tonight, but good to see him back in the series. He has 1 win here in the ARCA Series. Now the 18 of Denny Hamlin as they continue working on that 30. You see Denny Hamlin go by. Been working on this car, went a little too far last time. He's been begging for that tear off on the windshield. They just did it. Working on the right side, track bar adjustment as well. Vince?
The 88 of Cole Witt, it's been an up and down night. He had a good, strong qualifying run, but since then they've been fading. He says the car in the high line is not as good as he'd like. They're going to make a wedge and track bar adjustment. Mike?
No adjustments to the 7 car, just 4 tires and Sunoco race fuel. A quick stop, she's away.
Almost everybody of the front runners have made their pit stops in this cycle. Still got David Ragan, Joe Nemechek, and Jason Bowles out on the racetrack. There's Ragan. And when those 3 cars, actually when Ragan pits because Nemechek and Bowles have just come in, the lead is going to go back around to Paul Menard. Here comes Ragan now. Mike?
David Ragan on pit road. He's been pretty content with his race car, saying it's just a little bit snug. They're going to try to free that up with air pressure. You can see them completing their work on one side of the car, swinging around to the other side for a 4-tire change. Meanwhile, further down pit road, you'll find Dale Earnhardt Jr. on pit road. They'll make a wedge adjustment, a round and a half down on that car, trying to get him just a little bit more free, trying to give him a little bit more speed in this closing run, Alan.
Change for what will now be second place as Stenhouse in the 6 goes by Sadler in the 2. Paul Menard had a 2.5-second lead before the stops. He's got a 2-second lead now over that fight for second place. Menard in search of a win that would break a long dry spell in this Nationwide Series.
I'm Kevin Hart.
A-Rod and the Yankees. SportsCenter will be seen in New York. Both games available on ESPN, ESPN3, and also live on the Watch ESPN app. No comment on the opening of the season for your Yankees?
Been a struggle, to say the least, but they have got back to 500 before tonight's game.
And they won tonight, by the way. So, okay. Paul Menard leading more laps tonight than he had led before in a NASCAR Nationwide Series race, and that previous high was the race that he won, 2006 at the Milwaukee Mile. Wisconsin native, that was a huge victory for him. This racetrack has been a good one for Paul, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a threat in tomorrow night's Sprint Cup race either.
Yeah, if he's got enough fuel tonight, I'm not sure they'll catch him, but will he have enough fuel?
Had an opportunity for a caution a minute ago. Taylor Malsum in the 19 car. You'll see the right rear corner of his car has been a little rearranged. That actually looks a little prettier than it did a minute ago because he's been on pit road getting repairs made after this.
He gets it way out of shape right there in turn 2. Wall straightened him up.
And as we come back to live action, you will notice as the cars go into that section of turn 3, that bank of interior lights have darkened again, but we stay under the green flag. as the leader, Paul Menard, runs up on some pretty heavy lap traffic. Some of that lap traffic are lead lap cars racing for spots.
And that's the hardest thing, I think, when you talk about those lights going out. When you're around cars like that, that's what it makes it more difficult to see as a driver, is those things happening around, because there might be another car right in front of one that you see that you really can't see that you normally could because of a reflection that you're not getting now.
Caution is out for those lights.
Caution is out for the lights.
Yeah, this is that caution, Alan, that, you know, these cars haven't run that many laps since they pitted. And some of them are on a little different cycle because they pitted at different times. Paul Menard pitted last on lap 147 or lap 162. This is where you might see a little strategy.
So all of the leaders have pitted 3 times. There are a couple of cars that have pitted 4 times, so they'd be out of fresh tires. But all these leaders have 1 set of fresh tires left. So, Mr. Crew Chief, knowing we still have 38 laps to go, stalling for time while I dig for my late caution stat here. 6 of the last 8 Texas Nationwide Series races, last green run, 14 laps or less. So history tells us you're probably going to have a late caution, but tonight's been a pretty...
Yeah, it's got that green look to it, but the thing that bothers me is these lights. If they keep going out and if they're going to throw a caution every time they do, which I'm not sure that they really need to. I think that they can see. What do you think, Dale? I mean, like I said, I'm standing here. I'm not in the car.
Oh, yeah, it's easy to look over there and say, oh, that's, yeah, there's plenty of light over there. But I'm telling you, it looks so much different inside that car. And I think it's a dangerous situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, you want to put tires on right now, and you just have to just basically gamble you're not going to have another caution. And if you do, you're just going to have to put on whatever tires. If you make that pit stop, you'd have to put on whatever tires you have.
Well, these ones that have just been run have got about less than 20 laps. Let's see, Menard pitted at 147. Caution came out at 162. So you can maybe put the lug nuts. Most of the goodies
gone off that set, though.
Glue the lug nuts back up on those. And
yeah, that'd probably be the best set you'd have left.
I don't know.
Yeah, if somebody gambles here, and I think these leaders will pit and get tires, and if somebody else gambles and tries to save that set, you don't get that caution, then they're going to get, they're passed way by.
Kind of like the basketball coach, you don't want the final buzzer to sound with a timeout still on your side of the board.
Yeah, and unless it's one of these top at least 6 or 7 cars that saves that, the other cars I don't believe are fast enough to make up that time anyway.
Pit road is open. Any takers?
Oh, yeah. Plenty.
16 cars on the lead lap. That's not all of them coming in. Mike?
Kasey Kahne saying he's a little bit loose in the center. They're going to go down a half round on the left rear, a 4-tire change in fuel for Kahne.
31 of Allgaier. They discussed a track bar adjustment, but instead just 4 sticker tires. Jamie?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. saying we're okay, then loose, and then we're jumped, too tight. They're going to make another wedge adjustment, gas and 4 tires, Dave.
And leader Paul Menard, very good last run, a little bit freer, but Ernie Cope told him, well, I don't think they're going to adjust him, because Ernie told him you were a little bit better with that car, a little freer. They'll win the race off of pit road. Can they win the race?
And everybody pretty well holding serve on that series of pit stops. But not all the lead lap cars came in. There will be a number 3 atop the scoreboard when we go back racing.
As you come off turn 2, and he's got the fresh tires to do that.
28 laps to go. Let's see how it turns out. Denny Hamlin makes it 3 wide, 4 wide. Hornish to the outside. Stenhouse finds a lane around Reagan.
Just what you were talking about there, Paul Menard gave Austin Dillon a real break there. He spun the tires a lot, bunched everything up, but Paul Menard didn't run over him at all.
Yikes.
Still 3 wide. Kasey Kahne battling his car through the tri-oval.
Menard 33, Stenhouse 6 for second spot. The longer they race side by side, the better opportunity it gives Dillon in the 3 to get away.
It does, because this is a time at this restart where these new tires would be the best. If they can run, 7, 8, 10 laps, it's going to kind of even that advantage out there.
Yeah, right now, Greg Carlton, he's doing a fantastic job of keeping Austin Dillon out front as these guys race for that second spot.
Whoa, Menard had to settle his car into 3, and Stenhouse drove his into the corner. He gets clear now. 25 to go.
That was an important pass for Ricky Stenhouse to get by Menard at that point in time. That might lead to be the winning pass, even though he hasn't passed the leader yet.
I don't think Paul's done either.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't think Paul's going to give up on that inside line. We've seen Stenhouse need to move up and use the outside line, but when he does that, he's going to risk opening the inside lane up for Menard.
The one thing that Stenhouse is going to have happen here, though, his car's been tight. If he gets in, he's good. Looks like he's going to drive up to the back bumper of Dillon. That's where he's seen his car get real tight. That might be an opportunity for Menard. We'll see. Looks like he's got a run here, though.
Dillon slipped off the 2. And the lead goes to Stenhouse. Now Menard.
All right, drive it away here. Hit your marks. Nice and smooth.
But, Stenhouse did a great job right there of pouncing on Dillon when he had just that little hiccup.
Now Menard needs to get clear of Dillon quickly if he's going to have a chance. And he does. Kane, third place, 38. Denny Hamlin right there in the 18. And Austin Dillon just hanging on.
Looks like they may have made this 18 car a little bit better for Denny Hamlin now. He really fell off after the last restart that we had earlier. Looks like this adjustment's working well for him.
This is third, fourth, fifth. Allgaier there in sixth.
I think the only thing Dillon can do now is just hope for a caution. It looks like that'd be the only thing that would help him. He could come in and get that set of tires. He's the only one that has a set of tires.
Yeah, and it really needs to happen much sooner than later to give him a chance to get back up through traffic. But he has a fast enough car to make up a lot of spots if that would happen.
Yeah, these leaders are still running really fast lap times. Last lap by for Stenhouse was a 30.60.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the hope for Roush Fenway Racing to extend their streak of winning here at Texas Motor Speedway in the Nationwide Series. They won the last 3 straight coming into tonight. Stenhouse led a chunk of laps early in the race, came down pit road for a stop at lap 48. They had trouble on the right front, went back to 6th position, and has struggled to get back to the point where he could get the opportunity to get the lead. Now he's got the lead in the closing laps.
Well, one of the things he struggled with is a tight race car. You put that tight car back in traffic, and it makes it worse. And Stenhouse, he was very aggressive right there to get that track position, get that clean air on the nose, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing that Paul's fighting now. I don't think he can beat the 6 car with that clean air on the nose.
Barely breathing that throttle.
Yeah, he was 1 against 42 to make this streak continue, but they must have the right man in the seat to get it done. See 6 of the last 8. They've won 6 of these last 8. These guys aren't, they realize now, and they're in situations to where they have these cars with these Cup affiliated teams, and they've got the talent and the crews to get the job done, and they're doing it.
Is Hamlin going to have enough to slide up in front of him?
I think he does this time.
Kane's going to have a big run coming back at him, but I don't think that he'll be able to get to him. In case he needed more laps. His car is just so fast at the end of these runs, but it takes just a long time because he's just running that high line the entire time and giving up too much time with these drivers on the bottom.
Ryan Truex, unscheduled stop, Vince.
Well, one of the concerns they've had at the gauges have not been working on that car for quite some time, and Truex radioed in a moment ago, said all of a sudden we're spewing water, and now he believes it's blowing up, so they brought him to pit lane. Not a good finish for the 09 and Ryan Truex.
He was 14th before the pit stop, Vince. Not going to be the night that he hoped for. Turning into the night that he hoped for, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now led more laps in the 2 races on a 1.5-mile track this season than he had in his previous 22 starts on the 1.5-mile tracks. And why is that important? Well, because there are 12 races on 1.5-mile tracks this year. That's a third of the schedule. And you better be good on this size and configuration track if you want to be a champion.
Yeah, and they were solid there on these 1.5 miles last year in winning the championship, but they weren't outstanding. Now they're becoming outstanding. They're just making themselves a much more rounded team, and Ricky a much more rounded driver to show everyone that he's ready to win on whatever track that they might be going to.
Kane and Hamlin still going at it. Give it back to Kasey Kahne. Elliott Sadler going by Austin Dillon for 6th.
Trying to go by Austin Dillon.
Yeah, the 2 car of Elliott Sadler got really shuffled back quite a bit on that last restart, and he's just having to try to make up as much ground as he possibly can now at the end of this race.
Yellow's out.
That is Kurt Busch, and the caution is out.
I get caught up. Bring it to us here. We blew up, Pete.
It's the 3rd Toyota engine we've seen blow up tonight.
Brian Scott and Ryan Truex also. Something for those folks to think about. Kurt running 15th at the time. Got caught by the caution after the green flag pit stop earlier. Got back onto the lead lap, and then
there she goes. Well. Let's see another restart.
All right, so Austin Dillon didn't pit under the last caution, would be the one, along with David Ragan, of the leaders to have a set of tires left in his pit.
He's got a decision to make, though. He's kind of stabilized right there in 6th spot. Don't know that he would lose many more spots. I don't know that he can't gain any more, though, with the tires he has. Be a gamble either way.
So we'll see what happens here.
I think he's got some cars, as you mentioned, David Ragan, Danica Patrick there, that are going to come get tires also. So he's not going to be back as far. Yeah, I think it's worth the gamble to put him on and see what he can make.
Well, we're having a Friday night race. We'll have some Friday night fights coming up next as soon as we're done here in Texas. 12 laps to go.
Oh, I thought you were seeing into the future about
yeah,
this
I thought maybe we'll have
restart or
him here.
something. I didn't know.
Well, let's see. Well, we had a fight on the back straightaway, or a shoving match anyway.
That has happened here. That's right.
Recently.
Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton.
Yeah. So, you know, anything's possible.
I'm with you, Dale. I think I like getting tires for Austin Dillon because it puts him more on offense than to try to be on defense on these restarts. And he might be able to get, I for sure think he could probably get back to 6th here if they have enough laps, and maybe a lot more.
Well, pit road is still closed, so
another lap to think about that decision.
That's right, yeah, and it might help make their decision even easier if this is going to take a while, if there was fluids put down. I know there's a lot of smoke there, but I don't know if anything actually on the track.
of course, the 54 Kyle Busch Motorsports team running for that team championship, the owner points, so they want to finish the race if they can. But NASCAR spotters around the racetrack said that the car was leaking fluid and asked him to pull it off, and he did on the back straightaway, stopping there. And so they have to remove the car and clean up any of the liquid that might have been put down. Tough break there, and you can see what a hard, difficult night it was for Kurt behind the wheel of that car just to have it end that way.
Yeah, certainly not what they expected. You know, they had some time off, as Andy pointed out earlier, did some testing, got like a new car here. deal just didn't work out like they wanted to and be as competitive as they wanted to be.
And you can see the streak there from where the car came to rest of the fluid that was trailing behind it.
Well, they just didn't want him to drive it all the way around the track and have to clean up, you know, even more mess, take longer to get back green.
All right, pit road's going to be open here. Joey Logano, by the way, lost a lap with an extended pit stop under the caution wrapped around the red flag. He gets the free pass here. He'll come back onto the lead lap. Not the night that Logano was hoping for.
Looks like Austin Dillon's going to stay out. He's not even looking at pit road.
Dale Jr. is. David Reagan is. Mike?
Yeah, and you heard his crew chief, Wayne Grubb, tell us that this is exactly what they wanted to see happen. They wanted a caution in the last 15 laps. They've gotten it. They're going to make a 4-tire change and then dig for all they can get. They did fall all the way back to 12th, though, so it may be tough. Meanwhile, the 5-car, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he was also in. They took 4 scuffs and are hoping that makes the car a little bit better. It was tight just before they came down pit road.
So looking at the case for the 3, my best run at it would be there's only 10 laps to go, and with liquid on the racetrack and needing a few more laps to clean it up, they just weren't going to have enough time left.
Maybe less than 10 laps, and like I said, they had kind of stabilized in 6th place.
Stay out here, stay out.
It was a gamble either way.
Or that had tires left. So anybody that pitted right there had no tires to put on.
Jamie?
Well, Richard Childress got on the radio and told Austin Dillon and the team, it's up to you guys, you make the call. So they said, well, we'll come in and we'll take our last set of stickers. Well, last minute, Danny Stockman made the call and said, stay out. There's just not enough time. It's not going to do us any good at this point.
Cowboy up.
Well, the circumstances have not played to the favor of Austin Dillon and the 3 cars so far tonight. Little difficulty on the pit lane for Danica Patrick a second ago.
Right here, baby, right here. Quote. Get the row, back up, fine. Make sure the right front tire's in the box. Good job.
So I went past it, sorry about that.
All right.
One of those things that you learn.
Lead lap in 13th position for Danica. Got the free pass on the preceding caution.
It's better to make that mistake now. It didn't really cost her that much in a situation that's close to where she had fallen back to before that, so she'll be fine.
Well, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. probably did not want to see that last caution flag. I'll bet his crew chief Mike Kelly didn't want to see it either, Jamie.
No, they didn't want to see that caution. But after this last round of stops, Mike actually made the call not to make any adjustments. And Ricky wasn't too happy with it. Seemed to be the right call. How's the car right now?
Says the car is really good. It's been a tough night with us on the car. It's been back and forth. We've been tight and we've been loose and just making small adjustments. I know any driver who's not leading, I'm sure he wants to hear his crew chief made some adjustments. We look at data and we look at what the track's doing, and based on how many laps we had left, I made a calculated decision. It hasn't paid off yet. We still got 8 or 9 laps to go, but I like my chances with Ricky out front.
All right, let's talk about this restart. What do you think we're going to see here? Is he going to go on the inside? I saw him just duck to the inside. What are we going to see?
I'm hoping you see the 6 car check out here and get a win for Pure Michigan and Ford and for Jack and all these guys that do for us here, but still got 8 laps to go.
All right, let's see what happens, Alan.
1 to go has been given. We're coming down to the restart.
Well, we've seen these be an adventure for Ricky Stenhouse, and certainly this is one of those situations where you have hot tires, you've got a flat front straightaway. Trying to get these tires hooked up and get going can be difficult.
He shows that inside. I kind of thought that he might choose the outside because his car's been working pretty good up there. On the other hand, he does put Paul on the outside where he's been better on the inside.
I think that's more the case probably. And I think for a few laps at least, the inside is the preferred line around here.
There's the guy I'm going to be watching, Kasey Kahne in the 38. He is going to get aggressive. He's going to put that car 3 wide on the bottom, and it's going to be some kind of exciting through 1 and 2.
You heard it here first.
Well, they have just waved off the restart.
Waving it off here.
And we're going to get the 1 to go again, which will leave us 6 laps to go in the race. Vince?
With the crew chief of the 31 of Justin Allgaier, that's Jimmy Elledge. And boy, you guys have had an eventful night tonight, but you're sitting good, 5th spot. You playing offense or defense here?
I don't know, maybe a little bit of both. Our Branch Chevy's been good tonight. We haven't been great. We just haven't quite hit the balance. You know, we've been a little free in, right in the middle, and battling loose off all night. But he's done a great job on restarts so far all night to get us in the positions that we've been in. We just need 1 more and about 7 clean laps here, and we can get us a good top 5, get some points.
You guys have had some bad breaks. At this point, you're sitting good for a strong finish was exactly what you need. How much do you gamble at this point? How aggressive do you get, or would you rather see him maybe play it a little safer?
Well, I mean, we got to finish, you know, so I mean, you got to go at the same time, too. If you get to being too cautious, you're going to get it run over. So we just need a good, clean start here and get it lined out and get these last 5 laps in and get some points because of this poor start we've had this year. So see what happens. It should get exciting.
In the hands of the driver, AB.
So cautiously aggressive, is that what he's got to be?
Yeah.
I said that to Schrader one night at Bristol. He said, hey, bud, I can either go real fast or be real careful. Which one do you want?
We've seen this inside lane go and the outside lane not. We've seen the leader not go, and they get 3 wide into turn 1. Denny Hamlin outside row 2. Does he try to jump to the outside of Menard here and make it 3 wide before Kane can make it 3 wide the other way?
I think that he stays on the bumper of Paul Menard and tries to push his way there and then try to settle it between the 2 of them.
Going to have 6 laps of racing to find out how it all plays out. Friday night under the lights in Texas, about to fight it out for the win. Who gets it?
Green.
3 wide, Hamlin to the outside. Austin Dillon on his bumper. Menard shuffled back in the center. Stenhouse to the lead.
Hey, Casey Kane on the bottom 3 wide, just like you said. Just not for the lead.
Half a lap too late. Denny Hamlin digging down low. Can he get alongside? And then can he get by?
First thing, Stenhouse did a great job on that restart, but Hamlin was ready to go, actually pushing Paul Menard, who was spinning his tires. Menard might not be done yet, though.
Oh, that was close.
Clear, all clear. Hit your marks.
Stenhouse drove that car through the center of 1 and 2 to try and edge Hamlin off that corner.
Yeah, Menard needed them to stay side by side for another lap or so. Really have an opportunity to get up there on their bumper.
I'm impressed with Austin Dillon. With those older tires, he's moved up a spot for the restart. Danica's got new tires, making a charge.
Well, they made a great call to leave her out there and then come get the fresh tires.
Here comes Menard trying to get second from Hamlin. Menard 33, Hamlin 18. That's just what Stenhouse wanted to see in his mirror.
You just hear that car hitting the ground. Casey Kane.
Whoa, that was close. Reagan 27 with fresh tires. Patrick 7 with fresh tires, trying to dig up through the traffic.
That's a great
wide in the
move right
middle.
there.
3 wide in the middle. Take it. 3 wide in the middle. In the middle.
Colin on the outside, hanging in the 88.
That's a nice job by Danica Patrick, though, being put in that difficult situation. See, she hung right there.
I don't think she's done.
Get all we can here. Got no pressure out the back. Don't overdrive it here. Get all we can. White flag here. No pressure out the back.
for Stenhouse. The early leader fell back, worked his way back to the front, had a lead, caution wave, took his lead away. He managed to get away on the final restart. The defending series champ is going to extend Roush Fenway Racing's win streak in the Nationwide Series at this track to 4. Second win of the season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. takes it.
Not only took the win, but he's going to make a big gain in the points as Elliott Sadler had trouble and finished outside the top 10 and 12th spot.
Nice charge by David Reagan coming up to 6th place with his new tire.
Cowboy hats, we're getting cowboy hats!
Well, happy birthday there, Mike. Thank you, Pure Michigan, Jack, everybody on this team.
Well, 2 races on a 1.5-mile track in this 2012 season. 2 wins for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Broader scope. 6 races this season. 2 wins for Sadler. 2 wins for Stenhouse. 1 win for a Sprint Cup regular. And they're getting those cowboy hats out in victory lane. I think Mike Kelly will look good in